Hey everybody, P.D. Turner, executive producer and host of your Break It Down show. Today's episode is Mitzi Perdue. Mitzi was married into the Perdue chicken family fortune, and her husband has passed, and she spends her time working on charity. One of the things she's very passionate about is human trafficking. A lot of you guys know we are strong supporters of folks that take on human trafficking. It is a real problem, and it is terrifying. When you start to dig into the resources and the realities of this stuff, and you realize that this is a legitimate business for people trying to groom our kids internally. The human trafficking problem internal inside the United States is terrifying, and also the external side of it is terrifying. So we talk a lot about that. My man TK, Tim Clune, is on the show, and he'll be back this Friday when we have the DOC on the live side. He has a charity event coming up in about 2 weeks that I'll be going to in Texas. Definitely check out the Celebrity Softball Classic in Texas on June 12th, and you'll be able to learn a lot more about that. But yeah, we're fighting the whole human trafficking world, and it's terrifying. Anyhow, Mitzi's a great person. She does a lot for a lot of different people and spends her time and efforts on that, and I'm really proud to have had her on the show. She's a sweet person, and TK is a cool dude. All right, I'll keep this one short. I know you guys get sick of hearing from me all the time, so real quick, if you want to support the show, asking for a favor, this would be great. BreakItDownShow.com, go to the PayPal link. It's like the first thing you'll see on the show page. Just click that. And then look, $5, $10, $15, $20. Would you buy me lunch? Don't buy me lunch. Just put money in there each month, and that will allow me to put that money to work to help the show grow even bigger. We're already doing so many great projects. Money buys me time because it gets work off my desk, and I can work on these bigger things that only I can do. That's why you're investing in what we do around here. Okay, Save the Brave, SaveTheBrave.org. If you aren't doing something with charity, this is the time to start. All adults need to do something. You've got your life in somewhat in order. Start helping somebody else. It's good for the soul. And I'm telling you right now, what you give in terms of money or time or attention, you will get back. It is fantastic. Work on charity. Find a charity you love. Don't start a new one. Find a charity that you love. Find something that you're passionate about, and go really lean on those problems. All right, here comes Mitzi Perdue.
Lions Rock Productions.
This is Jay Moore.
This is Greg Cruz.
This is Bryce Vine.
This is Dexter from The Offspring.
This is Nathan
This
East.
is Sebastian Younger.
This is Daryl.
This is Stuart Copeland.
This is Mick Gillette.
This is Andy Summit.
This is Dr. Bob Greenberg.
This is Gabby Reese.
This is Rob Bell.
Hey, this is John Leon Guerrero.
Hey, and this is Pete A. Turner.
Hi, everybody. I am Mitzi Perdue, and you are listening to The Break It Down Show.
And now, The Break It Down Show with John Leon Guerrero and Pete A. Turner.
Yeah, this is a pleasure. First off, if you guys don't know who Mitzi Perdue is, I think you can just simply search it and you'll find out. She is very notable in her own right. She's been related to some very, very notable people, but she's an author. But I think today, because we've got TK on, Tim Clune, we've got him on, we're going to talk a lot about human trafficking. You know, it's one of the things that we've been covering over time on the show. You know, we've had Sawyer on, the Navy SEAL who focuses on it. Jason Piccolo has come on and talked about it. And then just recently, TK and I talked about, one of the things that was really weird that TK and I talked about was when you put certain hashtags that involve human trafficking, you know, Facebook blocks them. And all of a sudden it becomes this taboo topic. So I thought I would let Tim open up by saying a little bit of something about what they're doing, and then we're going to focus on your stuff, Mitzi, if you don't mind. TK.
Yeah, as always, brother, great to be on the show. And Miss Mitzi, great to be on here with you as well, and everything you're doing and helping with bring awareness and trying to curb sex trafficking as much as possible. But yeah, one of your previous guests, Craig Sawman Sawyer, who's a dear friend of mine, he and I were talking one day, and it was, you know, how can we help? And it was, well, we just need to bring more exposure, and having the influence, I guess, on social media that I did at the time, and having an apparel company, I was like, hey, why don't we do these Save Our Children sweatshirts, T-shirts? We'll push them out. We'll raise money for Veterans for Child Rescue, and let everybody know about your movie, ContraLandMovie.com. And great, everything was good to go. And so we started pushing them out. We started raising a lot of awareness. And on November 3rd, election eve, at 7 p.m., my partner Raj, he called me first, said his personal account was taken off, deleted. At that point, I got a authentication code from Facebook to be able to log back in. Right after that, my wife my wife texted and said, "Hey, I think I just got you kicked off Facebook." And so when I went to log in, I just hit my app on my phone, opened up, and then immediately started logging me off. And then my account was deleted. And so I texted my partner back and said, "Hey, ask your wife to check our Verve accounts, because we have several different companies that we have, and the Verve United account and Verve Forever, our CBD brand and whatnot." And yeah, they were all taken off as well. So, I was maxed out of 5,000 friends. Each of our corporate accounts were, 3,500 plus people. And within an instant, we were off, and without any judge, jury, we couldn't talk to anybody about it. We couldn't go plead our case, and really, literally for nothing more than this right here. And the hashtag Save Our Children is the reason why we got punched. And probably within a month of that, Instagram deleted our Verve United account for the same reason. So we've had to recreate it as well, and had to be very, very cautious and careful on what we do. Now, as big as that sounds, it's really not that big, because Sawman and Veterans for Child Rescue have, I think they're on their 4th or 5th account that they've had to create. Sawman had over 1 million followers originally on Instagram when they first deleted him off. Had over 250,000 the second time they deleted him off. But now the algorithms on all of our accounts, where I would post something to get, a couple few hundred people liking it, commenting on it, whatnot. Now, if I post anything, I might get 5 people. Same with Sawman. He, again, he has almost 100,000 people, I think, following him on Instagram. If he posts something, he might get 20 people, maybe. So the algorithms have really pushed us down, slowed us down on what we can, on how many people can actually see us now at this point. So I know there are some things in the works when it comes to social media and the who and what. And we moved over some stuff over to Parler and Clout Hub and a couple of other groups. And but again, we're just an apparel company trying to help a veteran organization like Sawman's, bestforchildrescue.org, and just pushing the word out. And for that, not only us, but a ton of people on November 3rd have been deleted from social media for it.
Mitzi, when I want you to talk about your part of the mission, how you look at human trafficking, but what do you make of this constant attack on a phrase like Save Our Children? And, look, I know Sawman, I know TK. These are good people. They're not making political statements. They're fighting for our kids. I mean, Sawman's daughter was abducted, and
Mm-hmm.
she wasn't
lucky
the first.
She got away with her life.
Yeah, just got away with her life, just barely.
How are you worried that this one's going to be taken down? And I'll share my experience with you. But first, what are the odds of this one being taken down just because we've used the HT phrase?
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't had too much trouble with it, but I though I know TK, I'm not in his social media like family, right? So we're friends, but I'm not as close. I'm like too adjacent. Maybe we'll be all right, but I've certainly had videos taken down, but I have not experienced the same thing. I've experienced the same.
I think when you don't use the Save Our Children hashtag, and it really comes back to the hashtags. But again, just real quick, again, going back to Facebook, even with our corporate page, we were able to actually pay to boost our post with the hashtag to help get the word out on the Save Our Children campaign and whatnot. So we never thought twice about it, because Facebook was gladly accepting our money and boosting our post, and we were having incredible sales. But again, as a small business, social media for the most part is one of the best ways for us to get the word out, and to have over 10 years worth, probably longer than that, on Facebook. Never one warning ever. I've never had a slap on the wrist, never been in Facebook jail. And to all of a sudden, you're just completely deleted and off the grid was pretty amazing. And then when I wasn't going to recreate a page, but then I ended up recreating a page about a week later. And within 48 hours after recreating my new page, I got put in Facebook jail for a month. So for nothing. I mean, I wasn't even posting yet. Just back on the radar. And so I could see everything. I couldn't I couldn't comment, I couldn't do anything. I could scroll through, but yeah. And then at the beginning of December, I finally was able to, start actually participating on Facebook again. But yeah, it's been kind of crazy, to say the least. I don't understand what they're so scared of, but we'll see.
All right,
What do
my
you-
experience
yeah.
with, I don't have experience with Facebook, but with YouTube. There's a program that I'm a fairly regular viewer, guest on. The host is a really good friend of mine. And usually, we might get like the first hour, like 5,000. Well, a couple of weeks ago, it was on the HT word. Do we all know what HT stands for? And I'm addressing you, the audience. It has to do with human, and then I'll have some great big space between the next word, trafficking. But every time you hear me say HT, that's what I'm referring to. I had a funny thing happen. I was a guest on this man's show, and I usually sleep through the night very well. But one time, like 3 or 4 or 5 weeks ago, I happened to wake up at 4 in the morning. And he had just posted on YouTube his show. And it was like, I happened to wake up and turn it on because I like him. He's a friend. I turned it on. It'd been up like a minute or two. And, just in seconds at 4 in the morning, it was already at 96. And I'm thinking, oh, that's cool. What this will be the biggest one of all. But then a couple of hours later, for some good old-fashioned ego surfing, I went back to see how much the number had grown. It had been 96. It's now at 74. For the next 30 days, it stayed at under 100. And that's just, I think that's the definition of shadow banning.
Sure.
But a cumulative number, just by definition, cannot go backwards. It went from 96 to 74, and it didn't break 100.
What
So
do you
something's
make of
funny.
that?
I'm a little bit, I'm afraid, I love to joke and say that I am a certified professional conspiracy theoretician.
Right.
And I gave myself that title. I paid, by professional, you have to be paid for it. With this hand, I gave this hand $1. Now I've been paid for it. Right. And as for certified, I certified myself. So you are listening to a certified professional conspiracy theoretician. And here goes. Human trafficking is a $150 billion a year industry. There are a lot of people who don't want it to stop. Do they have some kind of influence? That's my conspiracy theory. I don't know. But since
it's not a conspiracy theory, it's fact.
You're going to go with, well, I'm going to go with that. It's all right. So I have suggested, wearing my tinfoil hat, that there are people who don't want a $150 billion industry to go poof. Tell me what you think. Either of you. What's behind being
100%? You're spot on, and it's a global and people in power and all the above, and there's only been in our lifetime, President Trump has been overly over the top in helping stop sex trafficking and pushing to curb it, and has been getting rivaled for it. I mean, you just don't hear anything on it. And, again, Saul Mann's movie, ContralandMovie.com, which I suggest everybody go watch.
Say the name again, and I'll write it down.
ContralandMovie.com. Mm-hmm. And his movie is just amazing, and what he's doing out there is amazing. And, people like Saul Mann and Jaco Booyens and other people, they're fighting the fight every day. They're getting deleted off social media every day. They're trying to get their voices silenced. And, I can understand if it's a political deal where you're bashing this candidate or this person or this president or ex-president. I can understand some of that getting banned. But when you're trying to help and save children, I don't understand why your message is getting pushed. And so all of a sudden, what is considered conspiracy theories probably are not as much conspiracy theories as people think. If everybody's so worried about it that, everybody keeps getting punted off social media and whatnot. So.
Well, just think what a motivation. I mean, people will kill for $100. What are they going to do to keep $150 billion going? A lot. I mean, they'll bribe politicians. They'll pay for a whole infrastructure of dirty lawyers and dirty accountants and illegal bank accounts.
I think it's all getting ready to come down, to be honest with you. I think There's a lot of things being exposed, and I think there's some things that's going to happen real soon in 2021 that's going to put a lot of people on notice and expose a lot of people, and just how deep and corrupted sex trafficking is worldwide. I really think it is coming.
The depth of the evil of it is just mind-boggling. I mean, since I run an organization we raise awareness and funds for other anti-trafficking organizations, and I also write a weekly blog, and I've probably written 100 of them so far. And my approach is, and this is to educate myself as well as to get the word out about other organizations, but I will interview the head of an anti-trafficking organization, and I'll hear stories from them, and sometimes I'll talk with their clients, and I'll find out their approach to stopping trafficking or rehabilitating or preventing. And the stories I hear, it makes you wonder how some of the perpetrators could belong to the human race. I mean, Are you aware that you can you can get a menu, like a restaurant menu, of potential ways to have a snuff movie, and you can check off, I wanted a 2-year-old, I want them raped to death, I want them drowned, burned. I mean, just the evil is, how can they be part of the human race?
I want to jump in here and say, when people say these things, I think it's so important that sounds sensational. It's clearly horrible, and it's unbelievable. So how, and in a world where facts are alternate facts, and we deny experts, I want to do the audience the favor of, how do we know that is true? I mean, it sounds not possible. And
I'll tell you one way. Yeah. If you click on the hashtag Save Our Children, if you can find it out there, that's actually how, just by chance, one night, I just happened to click on it just to see what people were posting on it, and that was before I even started talking to Sawman about it. And it takes you down a very, very dark rabbit hole. And a lot of the people that post stuff on there, have to do it anonymously, just to protect themselves. People who have spoken out at the celebrity level, it's amazing. Everybody who does come out, who does have the facts, who actually does have the evidence on people, always end up committing suicide. It's just a fact of the matter is it's real. And again, just the videos I saw just by clicking on the hashtag that people have attached that hashtag to, they're actually pretty traumatic. And, Sidney Powell came out and was talking about stuff that was on, I can't remember whose laptop it was, whether it's Anthony Weiner or Hunter Biden, I can't remember, but she was saying that, hardened, police officers and detectives that have seen the worst of the worst, were just literally needed to go talk to people after seeing what was on these laptops. And getting back to what Mitzi's saying, those are the kind of things that are happening, in this world on a daily basis. You have groups like Pornhub that are out there making get hundreds of millions of dollars that people can get in on too as well.
I want to get Mitzi to talk about this too. Mitzi, when we talk about, is this real? You're saying these things about snuff films and menus and all that kind of thing. I mean, TK is giving great examples, saying go to Save Our Children hashtag. What do you want to say about this? Like, how do we know this is? We know human trafficking. Oh, I've said it. We know that it's real, and for whatever reason, you can't even say the words. And I'll take the hit from YouTube. The person who's going to screen this, it's human trafficking. I don't want people stealing anybody's kids for any damn reason. So, how do we know that these snuff film menu things are real? How do we validate this?
Can I answer that in a more indirect way, which is, I think that might be 0.5% of the problem. I think the much more common one, and I'm going to use United Nations figures right now, that more than 40 million people are in human slavery. Mm-hmm. And when we come to sex slavery, it's 8 million people. And when you come to child sex trafficking, it's something over 1 million. And, of course, I haven't talked with a 2-year-old child who's been raped to death, but trust me, I've talked with hundreds of people who have been trafficked. And I'm inclined, when somebody tells you, I'll give you an example. My son is dating a woman who is trafficked, and I've gotten really close to her. And when she tells me her stories, I am going to believe her. I'm going to believe stories that, for example, there's a policeman in the NYPD, New York Police Department, who was telling me this story of a woman whom he first met when she was in a hospital in New York, and her trafficker had taken a glass bottle of beer, whacked it against the curb so that there's a nice sharp edge to the glass beer bottle, and slashed her face from her ear to her chin, just missing her eye, 32 stitches. And the police, I think his title is detective, he told me that he wanted more than anything in the world to get this girl to talk so that he could, put the perpetrator behind bars for years. And he knows a lot about how to, he knows trauma-informed questioning. He's got all sorts of skills for how to gain people's trust, to reassure them. He couldn't do it. When she left the hospital, her trafficker was outside on the curb waiting for her. And so you might have the question that I, of course, would have is, why would she go back? Why won't she rat on her trafficker? And the answer is, some people have guessed Stockholm syndrome, but it's not that, according to the detective I talked with. He said she was so scared of what he could do to her or what he could do to her family, that there's just nothing that he didn't have any tool in his repertoire that could get this girl to talk because she was so scared.
It was horrifying.
But I know from enough sources whom I've talked with personally or who are professionals who deal with these people to be infinitely willing to believe what I hear. But because the stories have so much in common. And the amount of suffering.
There's videos of children telling their stories, again, on that hashtag. And that is what did it for me. And again, just, me personally, I'm not around that industry. I haven't really honestly talked to anybody that I know of that could tell me anything besides watching videos or, going to a source like Yako or Craig Sawman Sawyer. Outside of those two, I really don't know much more about it than, just trying to help bring awareness to his website in his movie. But again, just on my own research, it doesn't take much to really find out the truth and the conspiracy theories of the who, what, when, and where, and who's behind it. And, it's not hard to find. The truth is out there. Most people just don't want to actually participate and see the truth. They just would rather put their head in the sand and kind of move on. And I've been overly blessed with 3 kids not to have any incidents with my children. But, at any time, they've just been overly blessed and protected by God that they could have been snatched at any time as well and be put in this. It's not just females either. It's young men, it's women, it's all the above. And
part of the problem is, we don't believe it. We struggle to think, and we think it's not going to happen to us. And I was in Dallas. I probably saw you this trip, TK, but I was at Glenn Beck's studio, and granted, okay, Glenn Beck, people are going to go crazy and everything else. Calm yourselves for a second, because Glenn was talking as a dad. And he was saying, my kid was being groomed via the Xbox or the PlayStation or whichever system it is. And he had no idea because his kid's got the headphones on and he can't hear what's happening. And the kid was groomed to the point where, Glenn obviously is his dad. He's looking out for him. And it's like this person that his son hadn't met was about to have his kid leave the house to go do something, and was determined, despite all of his own safety and his dad's care for him, he was determined to go out and do it. So if it can happen via the internet, and people are blocking the Save Our Children thing because they don't like the word human trafficking, this can happen to literally anyone. And if we're not going to allow badass guys like Sawman and badasses like Mitzi to go out and help us fight this thing, this is why I'm so passionate.
Well, that's what they do. They get it through social media. All these social media apps that these kids are on, they get it media, they get it through the Xbox, like you said. These perpetrators know exactly how to go get them. And on Sawman's movie, just to give you the quick, I can't remember to the exact details, but he went to just small town America and told the police chief that basically, we could set up a sting here, and you're going to be, we're going to show you that is here. And nobody believed him. He did it like within 24 hours, like 500 people had clicked on to have sex with this 12-year-old girl. And within a month, there was over 5,000 people from that area. And it was, the point of the matter was to show that it happens everywhere, right?
I have a show with Craig, and I'm going to put that link up here. You guys should definitely watch that because we talk about that, and it gets heavy. He talks about, we set these things up, and I said, what draws them out? And he's like, honestly, it's 12-year-old boys. We put that on there, and the net, you can't keep the fish out of it. So this is really happening.
Yeah, you put it on the dark web, and it just blows up, and it's every community. Like, you really don't, and the people on the movie are showing up in suits and Mercedes, and I mean, all the above. You know, it's corporate people, it's people that you would never expect. I mean, it's absolutely amazing when you see what is going on. And it's honestly overly scary on what's going on because, again, times have changed. And, you know, our children are vulnerable at this point compared to what they were, you know, even 20, 30, 40 years ago.
Well,
Mitzi,
can I jump in with a piece of advice then?
please, yes.
And this comes from somebody that I was interviewing for one of my most recent blogs. And by the way, I'd love it if people would sign up for my blogs because I interview some of the world's greatest experts. But here's just one little piece that I think would be of interest and use to every parent. And that is, since most of the grooming goes on through the internet, you know, it happens digitally. There's some creep who's, you know, at the same time grooming 100 different kids. And, you know, if one escapes, he's got 3 others to work on. That when you give your child a phone or an Xbox or anything, whatever contact they have with the internet, this is not a matter of trust. It is simply don't trust. I mean, simply don't. Make it be understood when you give them, say, a smartphone, that you as a parent have a right, you know, until they're, I don't know what age, 16, 18 or something. You as a parent, when you're giving that smartphone, a condition of their owning it is that you have the right to look at it at any time. And, you know, parents, I think, you know, my experience of just talking with parents, you want to trust your kid, but no, it's too dangerous. The bad guys are too clever. Just frame the kids' expectations right from the beginning. No, you know, until you're old enough to recognize dangers and be able to say no. Mommy or daddy gets to see your internet connection.
And 100% with what you're saying. My wife did that, and both of my boys had a fit over it when they were, you know, junior high. And my wife's like, it's real easy, no phone then. And parents can actually go into whether it's AT&T, whatever service, and actually set up the safety measures, you know, what time their phone turns off, you know, all the above, what they can see, what they can't see, you know, if they can download certain apps. I mean, you can do all that actually through your provider for your kid's phone through the telephone number. And that's what I would suggest as parents is to take that action and, you know, set time limits and everything when your kids can be on their phone and not on their phone. And the same thing with the Xbox on, you know, when they can and can't play and the whole 9 yards. Of course, you know, we're the meanest parents on the planet, but like I tell my kid, like, hey, I'm not here to be your buddy, bro. Like, I'm your dad. My job is to protect you. My job is to make sure mom and I get you to the place that you can get through and be successful in life. And, you know, when you're at that point, great, then you can handle your own business. And I mean, look, they're 25, 22 and 17, and we're still on top of them every single day. So,
Mitzi, you've got a great book out. It's called How I Can Make a Difference, 52 Tips for Combating Human Trafficking. There's the Amazon link when you guys get it on Amazon. Obviously, Mitzi gets a bump, but also the show gets one too. If you want to understand, we're painting the picture and making the reality real for all of you who are listening. And this is a problem in America, but this is a problem anywhere where a kid's plugged into a phone or an Xbox. So be cognizant. If you're in one of the other 90 countries that listen to the show, you know, people will snatch your kid, and you got to watch out for this. Mitzi, what are some of the tips that are in there? Empower these moms and dads that want to keep their kids safe.
Okay, don't be afraid to say no. I loved what TK said about, I'm not here to be your best friend. No, damn it, darn it. No, your job is to protect them. And when they're young, they're almost defenseless against the bad guys. I mean, just realize, I got a phone call like a day ago from a woman who works in this field, whose 16-year-old son did something foolish with a photograph that he gave to, I guess, the person who was grooming him, who's now trying to blackmail him. And just this is a woman who works in this field, and yet it still happened to her son. And she said the consequences for this are just horrendous. There's just, ripple after ripple after ripple of the bad stuff that comes from you make one mistake. So I guess my biggest piece of advice is love your children enough to say no. But then there's, all right, another piece of advice, and I'm going to share this one with you because so many people have told me that it's important. And it's not going to be important to everybody who's hearing us. But if you have a child who's LGBTQ, they're the ones who are the favorite target of the traffickers. And you may have religious reasons for disapproving of your LGBTQ child. You may have cultural reasons. But guess what? Which would you rather have? A child who has a loving and warm relationship with you and isn't vulnerable to a trafficker, or a child who is going to be trafficked and has a life expectancy of 7 years and is probably going to die of suicide, overdose, disease, or organ harvesting? That is your choice. Accept your child, somehow deal with it, that it may not be what you initially wanted and dreamed of, but it's loving that child and accepting that child is so much better than suicide, overdose, disease, or organ harvesting.
When you guys talk about the billions of dollars in this industry, give us a sense, do we know how many kids a minute are abducted and trafficked? Or, what is this in terms of how many kids are actually impacted by this? Is it 1 in 10,000? Do you have any idea?
Know the numbers. I don't know the numbers. So respect. I do know a child that basically is swept off the street from a trafficker and put into trafficking is worth about $37,000. So if you think about, if you're a trafficker and you're snatching kids, and you have an outlet to sell these kids off, the money for these individuals, these heartless people and soulless people that are doing this, it really comes down to the money on the front end. The other thing, going back to what Mitzi said, one thing I would tell parents too is at every age, you need to teach your kids situational awareness. Yes. My wife and I talk about that all the time. Being in the Air Force, I was taught situational awareness at an early age when I was, not early, 18, 19, 20 years old when I was in the Philippines through the Air Force. And, it's something that still goes on with me today. I see women walking into Walmart on their phones, not paying attention, kids, 2, 3, 4, 5 steps behind them. These cell phones, that's the other thing. These cell phones have distracted people from actually paying attention to their surroundings. Everybody's always on them. They're on their social media. They're talking to somebody, but they're not paying attention to their kids. And they just think their kids are right there behind them. And it literally takes that fast for a child to be gone, and a parent don't know what happened, what they're looking for them, and they're already gone. And the other thing that in the research that I found out is where a lot of these kids are taken off college campuses, okay, because what happens? You leave the house, you get to college, you start experimenting with alcohol in some extent. You start trying to be part of the hip crowd, the cool crowd. I'm going to go out, I'm drinking, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. So not only does sexual trauma happen to a lot of kids where they might be raped either way, whether it's a boy or girl, or, being to the point where they're intoxicated enough that they're incapacitated and then they're snatched. And, but it's just not very much reported. The other part of it is just impoverished areas, where if you were to go to, a poor part of your city of Fort Worth or Dallas or whatnot, there's kids everywhere in those neighborhoods that are walking around that somebody could roll up and look professional and, hey, let me help you, or, this and that, and they're gone. And again, they're not going to be on the 6 o'clock news. A lot of these kids that are disappearing in these neighborhoods. And then the final thing is, homeless kids and runaways are another big target. That's how most, working through the church, a lot of the young females that we've talked to, and have helped get out of that and get back on their feet. Most of them actually had issues at home, ran away, were on the streets, were picked up by somebody who they thought was going to be great to them, take care of them, the whole 9 yards, and that person put them into sex trafficking, and they're lucky to get away with their life. And then the final thing I'll tell you is that the average person in sex trafficking lasts about 7.5 years before, what Mitzi said, they either overdose, get killed. They're basically of no value anymore. So, it's just a thing that everybody, like, no matter where I go, I'm paying attention to not just my kids, other people's kids, surroundings, all the above. If I'm walking through a Walmart and I see a little kid, well, I'm going to stop and try to see where their parent is to make sure they don't get disappear. I mean, this is not BS, people. This is like real serious stuff. And it's too late when your kid disappears or a friend of your kids disappears. So this is not just, we're on here just, my time's valuable. And to come on this show to talk about this, people need to get serious and start paying attention, or it's going to happen to you one way or another.
In fact, one way of thinking of it, you said that a child is worth $37,000. Well, it's a little bit like you're holding a $37,000 in your fist, and it's worth that to somebody, and they may try to take it. And then another statistic, you were asking about some of the economics of it. This is for New York City, but if you are a trafficker and you've got 4 girls in your stable, your income is $1 million a year, tax-free.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I mean, there's just so much money to be made out of it. But that brings me to what my organization's trying to do.
Please.
There are 2 things. Maybe I'll discuss all right, I'll be fast about the biggest one. I'm friendly with a group called the International Fraud Group, and I had the extreme honor of addressing their quarterly. I was the keynoter at their quarterly meeting. And this is a group that represents 47 different countries, and their specialty is financial fraud. I suggested to them, or in my talk, I said, we know the motivator of the traffickers. They want to make money, $150 billion. What if we could freeze their bank accounts? What if using like the dark web and artificial intelligence and covert action and tracing in one way or another, would it be possible? Maybe you'd have to go through shell corporations like Liechtenstein or Monaco or who knows what. Could you find, there's $150 billion sloshing around the world. Could you find it? And that's illegal money. So the banks will freeze the money if you can prove to them that it's illegal. Could you take away the economic incentive? And the answer was, and this is called a dramatic pause, the answer was yes. And I said, okay, why haven't we done it so far? And they said, because the people who have these abilities, they're frequently making like $250,000 a year, and they've got mortgages to pay, and they've got kids to put through college. They can't do it for free. Somebody has to put up the money, and it might take $10 million, but you could make a huge dent in trafficking if you made it unprofitable. So I went to one of the largest, possibly the largest anti-trafficking organization in the United States. And they said, this is exactly what we want to do, but we don't have contacts in 47 countries with this specialty. And they're extremely interested in it. I went to one of the largest financial institutions in the world. And if this were a month from now, I could probably tell you the names of all of them. But there's an organization that has, it's a financial institution. It has 750 billionaire clients. And the head of it hates human trafficking and wants to be supportive. What if we could put together, actually we already have, what if they all say yes to financing the International Fraud Group to go after human trafficking? And if we could do that, it could make such a dent in trafficking, because $150 billion a year, if you could just take that out of the system, think of all the people who wouldn't be suffering. I mean, this would be real prevention.
Yeah. What's the other thing?
Okay, the other thing is, and I have to take off my headphones, so I won't hear you. So guess what? I'm just going to monologue, but you have to love me anyway, okay?
Okay.
All right. I'm taking off my headphones now, and I'm putting on a nice pink polka dot scarf. I have to adjust it stylishly. And This is an imitation of Rosie the Riveter. Rosie the Riveter, back 75 years ago, she really made a difference in World War II. It was women who came out of their homes and into the factories and freed up men to help defeat the Nazis. And she made a tremendous difference in the world. Well, she being all the Rosies, because there were millions of them. Well, what if we had a Rosie the Liberator, which would be kind of a very respectful nod to an icon from a previous era, but this would be a 21st century version of, it's called Rosie the Liberator. And dear friends, so what's all that about? I'm inviting people, and I've already, so far there are already thousands. I'm inviting people, men or women. If it's men, it's going to be Rusty the Liberator. But if it's Rosie the Liberator, I'm inviting people to take a selfie. And I'm standing sort of sideways, and I'm making a muscle. I don't have much muscles, but I bet you guys do. But she was making a muscle and kind of looking tough and confident and powerful, and we're going to win this thing. I would like the Rosie the Liberator program. I'm inviting people to go to my website and post pictures of that, but I also want them to go to their own social media. And here's the challenge. Take a selfie, post it to all the social media that you can. By the way, men or women. Donate $5 to the anti-trafficking organization of your choice, and then invite 5 other people to do it too. And in that way, we've already raised thousands and thousands of dollars for anti-trafficking organizations. And this is a way of raising awareness and raising funds at the same time. But that's not the end of it. I want to make it fun. And so one of the fastest ways to get there, you can go to winthisfight.org, but a faster way is to take out your cell phone or your smartphone and text WTF. That's short for Win This Fight. You may think it's for something else, and yeah, it is. But anyway, text WTF to 51555, and that will lead you to a place where you can upload your photographs very easily. It's a seamless experience, and where you can designate where you want the money to go. And when you come to winthisfight.org, you'll hear all sorts of things like how to recognize trafficking when it's going on, what you should do about it, and extraordinarily important, what you shouldn't do. And shall I just jump in and tell you what you shouldn't do? If you see something trafficking, maybe it's a young girl with an older person who's clearly not her parent and she's looking scared. You can be suspicious that something's going on, but supposing something really is going on, don't intervene yourself, because you could actually be putting the victim in danger. I mean, people have been killed when people try to intervene. Instead, if it looks like imminent danger, dial 911, get a professional to handle the situation, or go to the human trafficking hotline. But, okay, so that's what not to do. What to do? The more people who get involved in this, the bigger dent we can make in the problem. And so my first recommendation is look up on the internet and find out what anti-trafficking organization you'd like to join. And if you'd like to join mine as a volunteer, I'm not after your money, but I'm very much after your time. And I will do everything that I know how to make sure that your skills and interests and passions get matched with the jobs that we have to do. And I make a promise to you that I will not ask for a single penny or a single second of your time that you don't want to give. I mean, at the end of this, I want you to have the experience that everybody else does, that you're making a difference. You're not going to solve the whole problem, but even if one life is made better, we're ahead of the game, but I think we have the possibility of making millions of lives better. So I'd really like you to join me, and I guarantee you the ride of a lifetime. And now I'll stop monologuing and put my headphones back on.
Tim, she's plugging who can you go to for human trafficking? Where do you want people to go to donate money in terms of your organization?
Listen, VeteransForChildRescue.org is the only one, honestly, that I know of. Sawman works with a lot of different organizations around the world as well, and I know a lot of his money goes to those organizations. I can tell you with Mitzi's, literally while she was talking, not to be rude, I went ahead and did my text. It's that easy. Like literally 51555. The WTF, that's usually the text I usually get from my wife, and it doesn't mean win this fight. It's usually she's going, what the WTF? So anyway, but yeah, do that. And the other thing is, listen, if you're watching porn on TV, you're the problem. Or if you're watching it on your internet, you're the problem. If you're paying for it on Pornhub to watch, you're the problem. If you're out doing this stuff and you're actively wanting to see this type of stuff, you're the problem. And I hope Soul Man finds you, which he will, I promise you, because you are the reason why it's a $150 billion industry. It doesn't seem like much. I'm going to watch a little porn on my internet. No big deal. I'm going to subscribe. I'm going to pay. You're the problem. And I hope one of these days, Soul Man is the guy you get to run into, because that's what I'm passionate about, is that he ends up scraping all of you off the carpet and put you all in jail and lock you all up where you deserve. There's no pleasure in watching little kids naked, running around, sexual activities, anybody happening, and even adults, even watching porn. A lot of those adults are being trafficked and made to be in those porn shows. So if you're watching it, you're contributing to it. Stop today. That's my message for you.
All right. I want to jump in too, because I'm aware that there are a lot of people who have no idea that watching porn harms people. And so one of the things that we have on my website it's called the Pledge. And the pledge is that whatever you've done in the past, we're going to forget it. Just don't do it ever again. And, so many people have told me they like some spice in the bedroom. And so they watch porn. Don't do it anymore. You're now aware that it causes just incredible harm to the people who are victimized being doing it. I mean, the number of times when I've read of porn stars who tell me, that they're looking as if they're doing something that the camera loves, but right in the background and right outside of the shot is a guy with a gun pointed at their head, and they're terrified. So it's not glamour like Hollywood.
And not everybody does it willfully.
Come to my website and download the Pledge, which just says, I may have done things in the past. Now that I know more, I wish I hadn't, but I won't do it again.
You can go to Mitzi's website at MitziPerdue.com. There is tons of stuff there. You can buy all of her books and everything. If you want,
tons of great resources.
Yeah.
By the way, can I explain why sweet little Mitzi is telling people to text WTF?
Do it.
All right. The original name of what of my website was the Global Anti-Trafficking Auction. A couple of weeks into the thing being up, I got this phone call from a neuromarketer. He's a neuroscientist. He's a PhD. And he said, Mitzi, that name sucks. And it sucks because A, nobody will remember it. It's too long and there's no call to action and there's nothing memorable about it. So he looked up and he found the name of Win This Fight. And he said it has the divine advantage of it's a call to action. But on top of that, the initials are WTF. And I said, ooh, that's not sweet little Mitzi's image. And he said, exactly. The more incongruent it is with the image that you normally portray, the more memorable it is. Because I could make a bet that maybe if TK says WTF, I don't think it's quite the impact of sweet little Mitzi. But then that's what makes it memorable. Or at least according to the neuroscientist.
Yeah. It's kind of like when Edith Bunker would put her foot down and be like, oh, gee, and she would give it to him. We all knew. I mean, even in your house, you knew, like, oh, damn, Edith just got mad. So if Mitzi's saying it, she's taking it serious. I also want to just briefly pull out from this thing and talk about one of the resources that's on there, because we just had Jason Mendelson on the show, and he's helping us all fight HPV cancer. And it's one of these hyper prevalent, like most likely, if you know 4 people, most of you have been exposed to it. And for men, it manifests in cancer decades later, a lot of times 40, 50, 60 years later. And so you can inoculate your children and protect them. And once you've been exposed, but you can limit exposure by also getting the vaccination yourself. And I know Mitzi's got resources there. And it's so important to understand that this is a sexually transmitted disease, and you can't stigmatize it to the point where you can, the males or the females are harmed by the cancer. It's something that's ultimately preventable. So Mitzi's got great resources for that there. And this is the kind of treasure trove that you are. We haven't talked about your motivational stuff and your business stuff and all of these other aspects. Mitzi's website, I'm going to put it up here again, is just fantastic for everything. And by the way, on my phone already, if you guys can see this, I've already texted WTF to 5155 also. So look, this is how we fight these things. We tell each other about it. We get each other involved. And you can see that TK gets upset. Mitzi's ready to say WTF because we do want to protect these kids. And if a kid is $37,000, your kid's worth $1 million to you. So do these simple things. Get them vaccinated for HPV and definitely protect them against these predators who are absolutely out there hunting. Just the fact that they haven't got your kid is just because your kid wasn't next on the list, but they are looking for a kid every second of the day. That's how these things work. All right, that's my monologue. Mitzi, continue.
With more monologuing. This is one of the darkest areas of human life, and the more I read about it, the more I can't even process the amount of suffering that goes on. But the other side of that is, if you make even a little effort, you're going to change lives. And as I've already promised, I'll make sure that you have a good experience doing it. I have people who are volunteering right now who said that this is one of the most exciting things they've ever been involved in because it makes such a difference. And I don't care what your skills are. I mean, maybe you're a typist, maybe you're a data analyst, maybe you're an undercover cop. Whatever you are, we will find uses for this because the problem is global. Global. I have read that at the height of the North Atlantic slave trade, there were 15 million slaves. That's too awful to contemplate. But just think, the same thing is going on today, possibly worse, with 40 million people. You have it in your power to do something about it. And it can be as simple as taking a photograph, or it can be as huge as there's a woman just recently. I adore this woman. I haven't met her, but she's retired. She's had a 30-year career at a quite high level. She told me that she's retired and she was looking for something meaningful in her life. She's now, this is probably a woman who was making $200,000 a year. She's full-time working for or volunteering for this right now. So whether you're at the top level or a level for everybody else, we will find something that will be meaningful for you. And you'll be so glad that you did. And people that you'll never meet will have their lives changed because of your taking the decision to do that. So do it.
Refresh your memory on how to get involved so everybody knows how to help you and donate their time or money or whatever it is. What do you want them to do?
Okay, possibly the easiest is to text WTF to 51555. But if texting isn't your thing, and I know an awful lot of people my age just aren't familiar with it at all, so here's an easier way. Not easier, but a way. Go to winthisfight.org. And the way to remember win this fight is what my neuromarketer friend says. Just remember WTF. It's the initials for winthisfight.org. And by the way, you can get hold of me there. And I've made a commitment to answer every email that I get. So write to me there. You'll find a place to message me, or not to message me, to send me an email, and I will answer you. I'd love to know your story. I'd love to know why you're interested. But do send that Rosie the Riveter or Rosie the Liberator image to me. I want to see you as well as hear from you.
Absolutely. And then just in general, if you go and you look in the message bar down below, you'll see the Sawman story. I will put that in the show notes. If you haven't heard Sawman's story, I got a chance to sit in his backyard and really dive into it. And he talks clearly, and it is powerful. And there's some backstory that I can't tell you, but there's some incredible things that do happen when we take action. And we give these predators something to think about, especially when someone like Sawman's coming after him. Because that's a terrifying. This is as a SEAL Team 6 guy coming after you.
Wow.
Yes, he don't like it, and
you're
in front of him.
By the way, I love the SEALs. Oh, I just think they're
well,
just the best of the best.
Let's get you on the show with him too, because we can't talk about this enough. And this is part of my form of service, is to say this thing is real. And if we can get, there are way too many causes. I get it. But this is one where there are small things that we all can do that just take minutes. Like, one, not watching porn, go find some other way to inspire.
Not paying for sex either. Prostitution, if you're out doing prostitution, that's the number one moneymaker at Super Bowl weekend. A lot of people don't realize is because these, let's call them pimps, traffickers, whatever, they bring these individuals into the Super Bowl city. And the NFL has done a great job with the host city on setting up the proper law enforcement teams to help stop this. But again, you're out of town. I'm just going to, find me a date for the night or whatever the case may be. You're contributing to trafficking. Like that young lady or that young man that you're paying, they're probably not even getting the money. There's somebody already waiting on them. So something you think is just very harmless. Oh, this individual wants to have sex with me or what? No, they probably don't. They're being forced to do it. Just stop. Help yourself, help the world. These men and women and young boys and girls, they deserve better. And we can't turn our head to it anymore. And if it doesn't fire you up, it doesn't just make you sick at your stomach. This is going on. You got bigger problems.
Mitzi, we're about at an hour here, and I don't want to, waste your time or take up too much of it. But what would you want to say in closing, in general? And obviously, everybody should go to her website, but also you can get the book. It's called How Can I Make a Difference? 52 Tips for Combating Human Trafficking. It's available on Amazon. All this stuff will be in the show notes. If you are not able to get it when we're live, it'll be there at the YouTube page. It'll be at breakitdownshow.com. Mitzi, what do you want to say in closing?
All right, I want to quote my late husband, Frank Perdue. And I think this is some of the wisest advice that exists. And it's also a reason why to volunteer. But it goes like this. If you want to be happy, think what you can do for somebody else. If you want to be miserable, think what's owed to you. Now, I'm offering you a way to be happy. I'm offering you a way to think what you can do for somebody else. And that is to help the people who are suffering from being trafficked, and you can make a difference. You have it in your power right now to make a difference.
Jim, anything in closing?
Yeah, get with Mitzi right now, because don't worry about what you think you can or can't do. Just get with Mitzi. She'll help you. She'll guide you and direct your traffic on what you can do to get involved and help. So don't worry about your skill limit. Don't worry about what you can't do. If you want to write a check to Mitzi's foundation, help out. It's the best thing you can do. Also to Sawman, because those checks absolutely help get them the resources and the people around them that they need to make a bigger difference. So I would definitely say reach out to Mitzi as soon as possible and get involved.
Then I'll say in closing, hey, everybody, we're real powerful supporters of charity around here, and I expect all of you adults to go out and find that charitable thing. You can be your time. I mean, you think about this. If someone has a charity event and there's a person at the airport that's got to be picked up, you can pick that person up at the airport. You're already going to go to the event. Just go early. Charity is not supposed to be easy. These are not easy problems to solve. It takes a lot of people, a lot of effort. Stuffing envelopes, writing emails. These are all things that you can do in your spare time. You're sitting there watching your kid play their sport. Hey, this is an opportunity for me to write a couple of emails. Those 3 emails save 20, 30, 40 minutes, an hour of time for that organization. There are a zillion ways to help. So definitely get in front of Mitzi's organization, text there, get involved. If not this, somewhere else. You're an adult, you should be helping people, whether it's homelessness.
Hey, real quick, one last thing. There's 3 ways that you can help. Write a check, volunteer, Open up your book of business of your resources to help. Now, you might not be, hey, Missy, I might not be able to help, but I know XYZ, or I have a friend XYZ. That's another way. Get your resources involved as well. So those are 3 ways that you can get involved.
Mitzi, I'm really going to shut up. You get to have the last word.
I have a feeling about your audience from what you've just been saying. I mean, you've been saying that they're adults, that they're caring, that they care about charity. I have a theory that you say who you are by what you do, and the fact that they're listening to you makes them good people. God bless.